Today we're at Kings Mountain Military State Park. I mean, it's all part of the same national park, but this is the battleground, Battle of Kings Mountain. This is a great path. It's nice and paved, and I don't know, just felt like having an easier one. Not that it's that easy, because this is like straight uphill right here. But anyway, it's a nice path, and just thought I'd show you part of it. Somebody's ready to go. That's where we just came from. We're kind of going backwards, and at the visitor center it points to the right, but we went to the left. There's all kinds of markers out here talking about the Battle of Kings Mountain, and I'm kind of curious to see what this one says. Let's go take a look. This tablet marks the spot where Colonel Frederick Hambright was wounded. Placed by Colonel Frederick Hambright, Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. That's cool. In honor of Lieutenant Colonel James Hawthorne, commander of Colonel William Hill's Regiment, York County troops in the Battle of Kings Mountain, 7 October 1780, Colonel Hill having been disabled by wounds received in a former engagement. Cool. Erected by Kings Mountain Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution, York, South Carolina, 1949. And these are the names of, I guess, men killed in the battle. I'm just looking for Scottish names, and there are quite a few, and Irish as well. Mortally wounded. What's on this side? On this field, the Patriot forces attacked and totally defeated an equal force of Tories and British regular troops. The British commander, Major Patrick Ferguson, was killed, and his entire force was captured after suffering heavy loss. This brilliant victory marked the turning point of the American Revolution. There you go. South Carolina. And the American forces, or the Patriots, were Campbell, Sevier, Shelby, Williams, Cleveland, Winston, Hambright, Chronicle, McDowell, Lacey, Hill, Candler. Interesting. To commemorate the victory of Kings Mountain, October 7th, 1780, erected by the government of the United States, to the establishment of which the heroism and patriotism of those who participated in this battle so largely contributed. Caught in a crossfire, hard pressed on every side, Ferguson's men fell back to their camp, which lay in the saddle of the ridge you see just ahead, which is down in there. As some Tories tried to surrender, bullets continued to pour into their ranks from all directions. Too late, they saw they were pinned down in a deadly crossfire. Patriots rounding up Tory prisoners remembered how British Colonel Tarleton had ordered rebel prisoners taken at nearby Vauxhalls to be killed in cold blood. Even as the heat of battle cooled atop King's Mountain, few Tories were shown mercy. Ferguson's camp included tents and weapons for 1,000 men, cattle, and horses, and 19 large baggage wagons. I can't talk. This encampment contained 1/3 of British military strength available in the South. The cursed rebels came upon us, killed and took every soul, and so, my dear friends, I bid you farewell, for I am started to the warm country. Last entry in a Loyalist diary found on the battlefield. Whew, just walked up another hill. I'm kind of going backwards, so this info is a little backwards. That's okay. So, soon as Charleston fell, South Carolina, there was a proclamation for all to come forward. Peace and pardon should be granted. Vast numbers flocked in and submitted, some through fear, some through willingness, and others perhaps through a hope that all things would settle down and war cease. John Roberts, South Carolina patriot. Finding enemies on all sides, Major Ferguson called for a defensive ring facing outward. Along this quarter-mile-long ridge, 90% of the Tories who fought here did not wear the King's red coat. In the war-torn Carolina backcountry in 1780, allegiances were bitter, confused, and sometimes fluid. Some men did switch sides, even in the heat of the battle. After all, the foes firing uphill at them were their own neighbors and brothers. Here, on the 7th day of October, A.D. 1780, the British forces, commanded by Patrick Ferguson, were met and totally defeated by Campbell, Shelby, Williams, Cleveland, Sevier, and their heroic followers from Virginia, the Carolinas, and Tennessee. In memory of the patriotic Americans who participated in the Battle of Kings Mountain, this monument is erected by their grateful descendants. It's another gorgeous day out here. It's a little partly cloudy. The sun's kind of trying to peek through, but it's beautiful. Daffodils are blooming, spring's in the air. Thank you, because I'm tired of winter. Gorgeous day. Americans in redcoats. These things are ominous. These are the damned yelling boys. Abraham de Peyster, New York Loyalist officer. British war drums bellowed the alarm as 120 battle-hardened veterans in red took their places in line here. Oh, dog! Get back here. They were the first to face the Whig woodsmen moving up through the trees below. Mounting bayonets as they had in countless drills before, they charged the riflemen. British hopes to end the 6-year-long rebellion rested on Americans such as these. Leaders in London thought that a backbone of provincial soldiers could set the example, training Tory militia to march and fight properly. Together, the Americans in redcoats and local loyalists might well reestablish Crown control in the South. Yet, we know that did not happen. Drive the enemy. The ridge ahead was craggy and rough and covered with flame and smoke. Campbell's Virginia Regiment had drawn a tough and bloody assignment to lead the first strike against the Tories. They were the first to close with the enemy, the first to hear the thunder of the drums, and the first to face the terror of the bayonets coming downhill. Some patriots stood their ground, and some were run through. Most broke and ran. The Loyalists stopped their charge at the foot of this hill. William Campbell stood halfway between his foe and his own men, now on the run. As he saw his neighbors make tracks for the next ridge, he shouted, "Halt! Return, my brave fellows, and you will drive the enemy immediately." One by one, the Virginians slowed, turned about, and rallied to attack again. Personal leadership proved crucial here. Colonel Campbell made time to visit every corps while marching to Kings Mountain. Face to face, he had urged each man to do his duty, and his own Virginians suffered the most casualties of any Patriot Corps. These men marched the most miles to get into this fight. Although their homes in the Virginia mountains were far removed from the great plantations of the Tidewater, this regiment did include African Americans, 3 free men of color, and the colonel's servant, John Brody. Daisy had a good moment today. She passed 2 men on this trail, path, whatever you want to call it, and didn't bark at them. Okay, Hoover Monument. Don't know what that is. I've only walked this whole thing once, and that was right after I got here. It was in 2021, and I was still going through some pretty heavy... Don't get in the water. Really? Oh, muddy dog in the car. Okay. Muddy dog, happy dog. Yeah, anyway, I was still going through some pretty heavy cancer treatments, so I did the whole 1.5 miles, and I know that doesn't sound like much, but when you're going through cancer treatment that actually robs you of every inch of amount of energy you've got, it was kind of a feat accomplishing that. Okay, let's see what this says. Okay, out of breath. Still working on my lungs. On this site, President Hoover addressed an audience of 75,000 at the celebration of the sesquicentennial of the Battle of Kings Mountain, October 7th, 1930. Cool. Presidential recognition. Well, that's pretty cool. How did they fit 75,000 people out here? You can kind of see that picture. And that's the hills surrounding here. 75,000 people. Shoot, if they'd done that today, I don't think they could do that today. Too many security issues because people are idiots today. Anyway, off my soapbox. What are you doing? You can't go under the path. You gotta come up this way. I can't go under there with you. You know that? Daisy, we're not going that way. You gotta stay on the path. That's the rules. Daisy, come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Good girl. Good girl. Charging cold steel 3 times. Everyone knew Colonel Severe's rugged frontiersmen for their long rifle marksmanship and their touchy eagerness for a brawl. But no experienced military man of that day expected men armed only with hunting weapons to be able to face and defeat real soldiers trained to use the bayonet. It had never happened until Kings Mountain. 3 times long hunters from eastern Tennessee charged up this mountainside. Once, then twice, they were chased back down by the Tories wielding 17-inch long bayonets. Somehow, Severe's patriots found the courage to stop running, turn around, and go back up against that fearsome cold steel one last time. Every man at Kings Mountain, Whig or Tory, knew that only 6 weeks ago, Patriot militias had been overwhelmed in the Battle of Camden, South Carolina. There, well-drilled Crown troops had used standard European tactics and cold steel to send the Whigs running for their lives. Camden, August 16th, 1780. It's hard to imagine that a bloody battle was fought out here. It's so pretty. Kind of hard to tell, really. with a camera because, you know, this is an iPhone. It doesn't really capture the 3D effect all that well. But it is really, really pretty out here. Just a different part of Kings Mountain than I'm usually walking. This is actually the battlefield. This is a really well-maintained path. I've got seats out here for, you know, whoever wants to sit and rest and take a break. I mean, you know, it's nice. Not everybody's an avid hiker, and, you know, people like me who are trying to get their strength back after years of cancer treatment, you know, that's a good thing. I think the one time that I came out here before and did the whole path, I did sit. Daisy was a puppy, a little baby puppy, and I ended up carrying her most of the way because I don't think I realized how long the path was. And yeah, I also got stung by a bee that day, or a bumblebee, something, I don't know, it was big and yellow and black. I think that was a bumblebee. Lots of dogs on this trail, huh? And you're sniffing every one of them, aren't you? You sniffer. Come on, let's go. Good girl. Be your own officer. When we encounter the enemy, don't wait for a word of command. Let each of you be your own officer and do the very best you can. If in the woods, shelter yourselves and give them Indian play. Advance from tree to tree and killing and disabling all you can. Isaac Shelby, Tennessee Patriot Leader. One by one, rough woodsmen from beyond the Blue Ridge plunge through the forest and up the slope you see before you. Shoot tree to tree. Ben Hollingsworth and myself took right up the side of the mountain and fought our way from tree to tree up to the summit. I recollect I stood behind one tree and fired until the bark was nearly all knocked off and my eyes pretty well filled with it. One fellow shaved me pretty close, for his bullet took a piece out of my gun stock. Before I was aware of it, I found myself apparently between my own regiment and the enemy, as I judged by seeing the paper the Whigs wore in their hats and the pine twigs the Tories wore in theirs. Thomas Young, 16 years old, South Carolina Patriot. Over 400 South Carolina Patriots had joined the march to Kings Mountain at Cowpens one day before the fight. In the summer of 1780, some of the bitterest fighting of the Revolution had raged around these men's homes and farms. This is really pretty through here, even in the winter. I don't know what these trees are that keep their leaves. I mean, so you see them, they turn kind of a light tan, but they're just so pretty through the winter woods, because it adds kind of a dimension for the rest of the trees that have no leaves. I don't know what they are, but I love them. Really pretty through here. Come on, you want to go off-roading for a minute? Come on. Just for a minute. Oh yeah. She loves being in the water. I'm a water dog. Yes, I am. There's a good puppy. Tighten the noose. Fire as quick as you can and stand your ground as long as you can. When you can do no better, get behind trees or retreat. But I beg you not return to run quite off. If we are repulsed, let us make a point of returning and renewing the fight. Benjamin Cleveland, North Carolina Patriot Leader. The hard morning rain had stopped, leaving the fallen leaves on the forest floor sodden. but wet leaves, as any squirrel hunter knows, soak up sound. Even the... Daisy, quit pulling, jeez. Even the footsteps of hundreds of patriots moving fast. The North Carolinians who fought here had the farthest to go to tighten a noose around the Tories. Leaving their horses a half-mile away to your right, that would be up that direction, which is so pretty. They had to slog over swampy ground to reach this slope. Arriving 10 minutes late, they saw loyalist pickets ahead. Then the din of war whoops and rifle shots broke out. North Carolina sent more patriots to fight here than any other state. Although the over-mountain men from Virginia and Tennessee somehow gained greater fame for the Kings Mountain victory, the Piedmont Patriots outnumbered them 2-1. And as we all know, the Scots settled North Carolina. They were a big reason America won the Revolution. Okay, what I didn't get on this video was my very smart dog here, who's completely wet now, and so am I. Got loose from me, went down the creek, got her leash hung under a log. So I am off the trail, off the path, in the creek, in the woods, in the water, trying to get her unhung from the log. And yeah, wasn't planning on that today, but you know, that's my girl. Always an adventure. Sacred to the memory of Major William Chronicle, Captain John Maddox, William Rabb, and John Boyd, who were killed at this place on the 7th of October, 1780, fighting in defense of America. Colonel Ferguson, an officer of His Britannic Majesty, was defeated and killed at this place on the 7th of October, 1780. Note, this inscription is a copy of that on the monument erected by Dr. William McLean in 1815. This stone has been placed here by the, I can't read that, something of South Carolina, so I don't know, maybe that was the original stone right there. Although I don't see any inscription. Local boys and spies. The patriots who formed battle lines at the foot of this steep hillside were local boys who knew Kings Mountain well. Some had used the large clearing atop the ridge as a deer hunter's camp. Local men from the South Fork settlements had helped the Whig colonels scout out where the King's men had taken their stand. As 25-year-old Major William Chronicle ordered his militia to face the hill, many a man knew he would have to face close relatives or neighbors among the Tories they would fight soon. Near here, Whig scouts questioned a Tory girl who had just been up to Ferguson's campsite to deliver some chickens. Well, that answers the question about food. From her and from John Ponder, a 14-year-old local lad just captured with the Major's last letter in hand, they learned a key fact. The British commander was wearing an unusual checked hunting shirt over his fine officer's red coat. Fighting in a forest primeval. Kings Mountain would have enabled us to oppose a superior force with advantage had it not been covered with wood, which sheltered the Americans and enabled them to fight in their favorite manner. Alexander Chesney, South Carolina loyalist. The woods you see around you today may look ancient, but they are only a shadow of the mature, there goes my dog, come back, of the mature forest that stood here in October 1780. Hardwood trees like oaks, hickories, and chestnuts covered the slopes of Kings Mountain. Their great trunks, massive by today's standards, each tree stood much farther apart than you see here, nor was there as much underbrush. Both Whig and Tory accounts of the battles say they could see their enemies at long distances and could move rapidly under the forest canopy. At the time of the battle, the top of the mountain was bare, open ground. Interesting. The last time timber was cut off Kings Mountain was less than a century ago. Forest has been reclaiming both the side slopes and the crest. Huh. Really? No trees at the top? Huh. Yeah, and these trees, these are young. I would have loved to have seen the massive trees. That would have been really cool. Shame on us for cutting them down. Right there where you see the seats, they do reenactments of the guns used at the time. Or not guns, but rifles, hunting rifles. I came out for that one time. Didn't walk the whole path, just kind of came up and saw the reenactment. And that was pretty cool. And the fact that they had to do what they had to do to repack or reload those rifles to get it off in, I can't remember, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. It took them, I can't remember how many seconds the guy said. It was either 3 or 10. But it was fast. I know that. They were quick. Reloading and firing. We are at the end. Yay! Like I said, I took this trail backwards, so when I put my video together, I'll be kind of rearranging everything and making the last video first. Kings Mountain Battlefield Trail. If you follow the trail to your left, which I went to the right, because of course that's what I do. No, I didn't. I went to the left. I should have gone to the right. Anyway, whatever. If you follow the trail to your left, that's that way. You will circle the base of Kings Mountain, as gathering Patriot forces did on the afternoon of October 7th, 1780. The path climbs to a rock-strewn ridge line, which was defended by more than 1,000 American loyalists under the command of one British officer, Major Patrick Ferguson. The fighting, tree to tree, was sharp and short, lasting only 1 hour, about the time you may spend walking. At the end, both Ferguson and British troops' hopes for a quick victory in the South were dead. Patriot leader and future President John Adams once guessed that during the American Revolution, about 1/3 of the population supported independence, 1/3 supported the king, and 1/3 stayed out of the fight. The bitter fighting here in South Carolina reveals that the Revolution was America's first Civil War. The Battlefield Trail is paved 1.5 miles round trip. Baloney. Feels like way more than that. Allow 1 hour to walk. Moderate to steep grades. Yes, I will agree to that. Use wheelchairs or strollers with caution. Yes, absolutely. Please stay on trails to prevent erosion. Whoops. Relic hunting or damaging resources is prohibited. Report any suspicious behavior to a ranger. Ironically, although an army loyal to the king fought here in 1780, this mountain was not named for King George, but for a local settler family. There you go.